Alrighty, I want to give you a little solution guide to your practice exam. So let's go ahead. And if you've noticed here, we're labeling the solid object as object 1, and the dashed line is the motion position graph of object 2. And what we want to do is carefully describe what's going on. So here's what we'll say. Object 1 starts out further ahead than object 2 and moves backwards at a faster speed than object 1 moves backwards. It eventually catches up to and overtakes object 1. We need to capture all of that in our explanation. And then when we want to actually draw the velocity graphs, again, object 1 is going faster, so I'll call this 1. And then object 2 going just a little bit slower. I'll even do it as a dotted line here. So again, both negative velocities, but again, closer to the time axis, which actually really means closer to 0 on the velocity axis. So that's the first one. Let's take a look at the second one. All right, so here for the written description, object 2 starts ahead of object 1, and both move backwards at a constant velocity. And not just a constant velocity, but at the same constant velocity. So let's be really careful about that. Whoops. So when we go ahead and actually draw the velocity as a function of time, which I'll actually do right here, I'm going to draw one line for both, just a negative velocity that's supposed to be a steady negative velocity. And this is object 1 and object 2. And then for the next one, this is interesting in that neither object moves. Both are at rest. Object 1 is further along the ruler. And I'm going to write a note here. Please note, if you write higher up, you will be docked points. And the question I want to ask you is, why would I do that? And this is not a rhetorical question. Okay. And so here, neither one's moving, so it actually turns out the velocity graph is just 0 along here. So that's 1 and 2. And both objects are completely stationary, so the velocity graph goes right along 0. All right, then the last question, this one's a little bit more straightforward. We have object 1 and 2 both start at the 0 mark. Object 1 moves faster than object 2. And so the way we draw this graph, object 1 is going fast. We'll draw that like this. So here's object 1, and then object 2, its speed considerably slower, right here. So those are the beginning graph problems. And then in our next videos, we'll take a look at some of the more numerical problems.